Welcome to the High Level People Podcast with your host, PJ Crescenzo. This is the show where every week we go inside the minds of modern market leaders. I'm talking world-class operators, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, people who are making an impact on ministry. The question is, if you're going to compete, why not compete at the highest level possible? And that's what this show is designed for, to give you a playbook for your life so that you can continue to climb levels week after week. This is the High Level People Podcast, and welcome to today's episode. Welcome to the High Level People Podcast. Today I have Robert Howell, who is a successful land and mobile home packaged investor across the Southeast. He's also successfully invested in mobile home parks. He's passionate about building wealth through real estate. He also runs a family business, and I'm excited to go deeper on the story of Robert. Robert, welcome to the show, brother.
Appreciate you having me, PJ. Looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. So what inspired Robert Howell to get into real estate investing?
That's a great question. And, if I think back, I think it's probably a little bit in the blood. My grandfather, Jim Wood, was a builder in Memphis, Tennessee, and built lots of houses around Memphis. That being said, that's not what I did starting out in my career. And I was doing event marketing for 16, 17 years, starting out when I got out of college, or actually during college, and was doing event marketing, had some interest in real estate, bought a couple rental properties here and there, but nothing really intentional or really serious. Well, then COVID hit, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do events anymore. I got to do something else. And told myself I've always been passionate about real estate. And that's when I made the jump and said, I'm going to do this full time, and started at the beginning of COVID, and the rest is history.
What did you find was the toughest thing about reinventing yourself? Going from a background in event marketing to jumping full time into real estate investing, part of that requires a new identity, a new focus, a new strategy. What did you find is one of the greater challenges in stepping into that new identity in Robert 2.0 in the professional landscape?
Yeah, I'll tell you probably just the education, right? And the know-how, risk, of course, right? And my perception of risk before I owned real estate versus what my perception of risk is today, completely different, right? And so changing that perspective, changing that mindset, and educating myself on, hey, what's a real risk versus maybe it's really not a risk.
Or a
It's
perceived
just
risk because it's a new deal.
perceived. Yeah.
All right, so you go into real estate 2020, it's 2026. What has the growth of the real estate investing business looked like over the last 6 years?
It's been great, and have really enjoyed it. Started out when I first started, I was just wholesaling, and this is at the very beginning of COVID. There's a lot of unknowns, and prices hadn't gone crazy yet. But I would buy a house for $5,000 and sell it for 25. And I live in the upstate of South Carolina near Greenville. And so I was just doing that, just wholesaling. And that was really just learning the business. Part of that, I ran across an older gentleman, LaFoy Ellenberg, great guy. Every time I do one of these and talk about him, I think, man, I need to call him and check in. He's in his 80s. But I was buying some houses from him, and he said, my nephew owns this mobile home park across the street. Would you be interested? I didn't know anything about a mobile home park, but I knew a lot about affordable housing. I had buying these houses 5,000, selling for 25, and my rentals were more affordable type housing. And so I said, sure, I don't know anything about it, but I'm interested. Negotiated that mobile home park for 6 months, and finally bought it, fixed it up, sold it a year later. Which then enabled me to buy a bunch more mobile home parks. And that was really been my focus. Through that process in South Carolina, you have to have a mobile home dealer's license to buy mobile homes direct from the factory and sell them to consumers, similar to a realtor's license. But you got to have that license. So I went ahead and got that license, and I saw, man, I could buy these manufactured homes, mobile homes, direct from the factory for a really affordable price. And why don't I just, instead of, at the time I was starting to do some house flipping too, said, instead of flipping houses, why don't I just buy these homes from the factory, buy raw land and put them in? And so been doing that since. And so really kind of my day to day and my growth is active day to day is buying land and putting new manufactured houses on it. And then my long term separate is buying mobile home parks to offset the income and taxes and build long term wealth and long term, cash flow.
Where do you see the mobile home park asset class in the real estate landscape today as far as opportunity is concerned? Do you feel like this is one of the most untapped asset classes? Do you think it's one of the riskier but more rewarding if you get it down? Like, what's your relationship with mobile home parks as you look at some of the other asset classes that exist in residential and commercial?
Yeah. For me, I think it's one of the safest bets that there is out there. People ask me why I buy mobile home parks, and I'm a very simple guy. I'm not calculating cap rates. I'm not worried about all the different financial ratios. I'm just worried, is it going to cash flow or not? And when you look at it, and I'm buying mobile home parks for $20,000 to $30,000 per lot, and a lot of times the houses come with it, and you can rent those houses for $700-800 a month. And so I look at it, I'm like, where are you paying $20,000 for a house, and they're renting it for $700-800 a month? I mean, the returns, I don't know what the returns on that, but they're great. And
Astronomical compared to a single family deal where you're lucky to break even, or maybe
right.
you pocket $200, but with a way higher cost for entry.
Yeah. So I see it as pretty safe, and, competitive landscape, private equity and bigger institutional investors have gotten into the mobile home park space. But I'm focused on small and mid-sized parks, which would be, anywhere from, for me, it's anywhere from 3 lots to 30 lots. And the institutional, they want to buy 50 lots or 100 lots plus. So I don't, of course, do I see competition? Yes, but it's not at the same level as the 100 lot parks.
Do you think simplification, and I don't know if this was intentional or organic, do you think that simple approach to analyzing deals and just looking at cash flow has been an asset in building your portfolio versus over analyzing and maybe getting paralysis by analysis?
100%. Yeah, it makes you move fast. I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, I got a mobile home park under contract. Residential realtor, posted it on Facebook in a real estate group and said, "Hey, I've got a mobile home park that I'm going to sell." And she put her number down. Maybe she didn't put her number down, but anyhow, she said, "Contact me for more information." I sent her a message and said, "Hey, where's it located?" A text message. She responded right away. I said, "Okay, I'll be there in an hour." And I went and looked at it. While I was sitting at the mobile home park, I sent her a text back with two options: a cash option, a seller finance option. And for me, I just looked and said, I told her I wanted to do the seller finance option. And I calculated up what the payments were and what the rent is, and knew that it would cash flow. Now, that does, some of that comes from experience, right? But napkin math works all day long from a cash flow perspective. And I got the contract. She said hundreds of people were texting her and messaging her about this mobile home park, but I moved the quickest and got the deal done. Some of these other people probably were worried about due diligence or worried about, putting their spreadsheets together.
How long did it take you to gain the confidence to move quick, or was that your philosophy and mindset from day one of getting into real estate investing?
Man, I think day one, but I think I learned it from event marketing. I worked at, you can see behind me, I've got 3 Olympic torches here. I worked on, I think 7 Olympic Games for Coca-Cola.
Wow.
And the deal with the Olympic Games, they don't care. I mean, obviously they need Coca-Cola's money to put the Olympic Games on. But the Olympic torch is going to start when they publish that it's going to start at 8 a.m. on a Monday, regardless of whether Coca-Cola is ready or not, right? And that applied to the Olympics. I've been to the Super Bowl, been to NASCAR races. Those things are starting with or without you. So you learn that sense of urgency that, like, hey, you got to move fast because it's going to go with you or without you. And I think I've been able to transition that over to real estate, just having that sense of urgency in real estate deals, but also in how you work with people and communicate with people. And that gives you a bit of an edge.
Why do you think there's a lack of urgency today in the marketplace? Do you think that's just from a lack of, like, in your scenario, you had a professional career that required urgency? I would say urgency is a inner trait, right? Something that's usually attached to hunger. But what would be your perspective on, a lot of people don't move as quickly, as they ought to? What do you think is the cause of that?
think it starts with the expectations of the organization, right?
Mm.
And so you think about, I work a lot with government, just given what we do with land home packages and permitting and approvals and such. And, there's usually not much sense of urgency there. But I think it starts at the top in terms of like, hey, what's the leader doing, right?
Mm.
And so I think that's where it starts. Now, if it's me and you talking and we're real estate investors and we don't have a sense of urgency and we work for ourselves, that I think that comes, like you said, from your inner being of like what drives you, what's your fire.
Mm.
Do you really have it in you to go make it happen?
What's your fire today? What's the long-term vision for Howell Sons? What's the North Star of what you're building and working towards?
For me, from a business perspective, I love affordable housing, and my goal is to do 100,000 affordable houses in the next 10 years,
Mm.
and which is a lot, and I can't do it all alone. And when I say that, you're probably like, there's no way this guy can do 100,000 homes. I'm doing 100 homes a year right now by myself. So you think about 10 years, I'll have only done 1,000, right? And maybe
Mm.
I'll grow, and so maybe I'll do 2,000 or 3,000. But that's my goal, and that's what drives me.
I love it.
Uh, I can't do it all myself, so I have these types of conversations, and my hope is people listening to this podcast or people that I teach or talk to on a daily basis feel that energy, feel that passion, and they say, "Hey, I want to learn how to do affordable housing, whether it be mobile home parks or land home packages or something else." Right. So the more I talk about it, the more it happens. So that's from a business perspective. From
Absolutely.
a family or long term perspective. I've got the name of my company is Howell Sons, and I set that up a couple of years ago because I was like, my boys are in high school, and it would be a great thing if they wanted to pursue real estate, pursue business, and they've shown kind of that initial desire to do that. I've got a son that's going to be a senior and one that's going to be a sophomore, and so from a legacy standpoint, I would love to be able to set something up over the next several years that they could come into. We could work together. We work together today. They both own a mobile home and one of my mobile home parks that I
I
sold
love
them.
that.
And they do cold calling for me. They help with some marketing. They've got their own podcast now, so they're busy with that. It's called The Early Birds. They
I love
interview
that.
they interview people that like started young or kids that are starting to be entrepreneurs early on.
I love that. What's the going back to some of your origin story? What's the greatest lesson you learned from your grandfather, who was the builder in Memphis?
Um, I think from him was really about like hard work and
Mm.
having that work ethic to really just head down, grind, make it happen.
And I would say work ethic is a very close related sibling of urgency. I think those two
Yeah,
things coexist. It's kind of hard to work hard and not be urgent because I think
that's
both
right.
of those things exist in the same ecosystem. What do you think is the most difficult thing about executing on a land mobile home package deal today?
It's really not that hard, to be honest. It's really
Okay.
not that difficult. If you're starting out, of course the knowledge is hard, but the reason I like land home packages because the same process every time over and over
Mm.
again. We've got about 150 items that when we start a project that need to be completed, and we know that those are the things that need to get done. When we
Mm.
get a property under contract, through due diligence, and then once we own the property. So we know exactly what needs to happen. And so that's why I say it's not that hard. As I think about it, I just expanded recently and started working in Tennessee. Um, and it's been hard, like learning the local codes and the local counties. Every the process to set a mobile home and develop it is the same, but how you work with the county is very different. And so learning that has been pretty hard.
Okay. And when you say you're looking to expand your audience, build new relationships, transfer some of this knowledge, where do you see the biggest value add being to somebody that says, "Hey, Robert, teach me how to do this"? Is it creating that 150 step process? Is it giving them the confidence? Is there a certain part of the process that you find sometimes is the hardest for people to grasp? Where does that transfer of knowledge make the biggest impact as you're starting to educate people on what this process looks like?
Yeah, I think the biggest impact is probably just showing them, right?
Mm.
And I could sit here on call with you and I could bring up our spreadsheet and I could show you everything that needs to happen. And you're probably going to be cross-eyed thinking, man, that's a lot of stuff. But when you can see the process happen, it's very valuable. So typically, if somebody like you came to me and said, hey, I'd really like to learn more about land home packages, I'll say, hey, well, let's meet at a job site, right? Or, hey,
Mm.
why don't you come to our weekly meeting and you can attend and you can see, what we talk about and how it happens. And learning by doing is really helpful.
I love that. So, in the goal of scaling to 100,000 units, which by the way, I don't think there's anything that really any human who's growth driven. I think back to the parable of the talents, 10 talents, 5 talents, 1 talent. I think anybody who's a 10 talent person, somebody who has big capacity, you could say any number and I think it's possible. I think everything's created
Let's go.
first in the mind and second in life. You could tell me I'm going to do 1 million units in the next 6 months. And I'd say, all right, well, we got some work to do, but it's possible. So there's nothing in this ecosystem you could tell me that I'm not going to say, let's get after it and make it happen. That's my belief system in life. Walt Disney had a crazy dream for a while and almost went bankrupt, and now they're probably one of the most successful organizations in the history of man. And actually, this is my second professional podcast where I'm officially rocking the stash because my soon-to-be 4-year-old son loves it. It's his favorite thing
Love
ever
it.
when I come home with the stash. So, but think it back to Walt Disney. Maybe that's my way of honoring inner Walt. But going back to the question, right? So 100,000 units next 10 years, what makes that scale possible? Is it additional capital? Is it students? Like, are you looking to go into the coaching business? Is it, co-GPs, co-investors? Is it funding? Like, what gives Howell Sons the ability to facilitate 100,000 units in the next 10 years?
Man, it's a combination of everything you said,
Okay.
right? I think first thing is there's no limit on the amount of opportunity. Like you said, like the opportunity is there. We have such a huge need for affordable housing across the U.S. I mean, housing in general, and especially affordable housing, right?
Hmm.
And so, in my experience so far, there's really no limit on the opportunity. The limit comes in how many hours in the day you got, right, to make it happen. How much money can you raise? So that definitely is a limiting factor. And not just money. I mean, there's lots of money available, but the way I like to say it is smart money. And
Yep.
so, are we managing our monthly commitments in a smart way? So, we work with a lot of private lenders like me and you who have made money in business or made money in their corporate job, and they lend money to real estate investors as a private lender. And we accrue our interest to the payoff when we sell the house. And so, that allows us to help us manage our monthly obligations. So that's one way we do it. And right now it's a limiting factor. Trying to be more active online so people know about what we're doing and are attracted to, hey, I want to help you achieve a goal. You
What
mentioned
have you
education.
seen? Or go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, so
No, go ahead.
let's break these apart because I think each of these buckets are good buckets to kind of go deep on. So we got the funding and the capital, we got the education, and then we'll talk about co-partnering investing. So as you go into funding, what have you seen be available, right? So you go from event marketing into real estate investing. Funding is one of the key aspects of facilitating that. So did you start with some institutional debt? Did you start at a depository, a bank, a local lender? Did you just immediately start with raising money and having, wealthy guys just put up the money for deals? Like, what did your funding journey look like throughout this process?
Yeah, that's a good question. So starting out, when we started doing this like 4 or 5 years ago, there was still a bit of a stigma on mobile homes, or 30 years ago, people called them trailers, and so lenders were very hesitant to lend on these land home packages. We've seen that improve over the last 4 or 5 years, so much so that people are now calling us asking, "Hey, what's the next project?" But when we started out, we started with a private individual who lent us enough money to do 2 or 3 projects as a proving point, right? And then hard money became our primary source. In particular, one company we worked with, and they've been great, good partner of ours. They were the only ones that would really give us a shot.
And
Uh,
and were they the first partners that offered the deferred interest on the payoff? So you didn't have to
no,
pay
this
in?
at this point we're paying them monthly interest
Okay.
and points.
Okay.
Um, and then more hard monies, came out of the woodwork to say, hey, we believe in this, we see the success. And then, as we've gotten better at raising money, private individuals. So private
Okay.
individuals that will loan on one project, maybe three projects, maybe five projects, just depending on their capital available. And then banking, we do have local banks that will lend on us. We don't use banks quite as much because of the amount of equity required. A bank is going to require 20, 30% equity, whereas hard money will lend 100% typically, and a private lender will lend 100%. So, we'd use a mixture now. I would say we're probably about 50% hard money, 50% private individuals.
Okay. And I guess I'd ask two questions. One, is that something you quarterback of kind of saying, hey, what's the allocation of debt and equity we have right now? And how time consuming is the funding process in scaling the portfolio? Do you find it to be 5 to 10% of your time? Do you find it being 70% of your time? How much time does that occupy in the process of scale?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, me and my business partner will just kind of split the funding role.
Okay.
And right now, I'd say we're probably spending 5 to 10% of our time. To be honest, it could be 100% of our time, and it really probably should, given that it's the limiting factor. But
Okay.
we're able to raise enough for what we have in the pipeline right now. Usually 5 to 10% of our time.
Okay. All right. So let's transition to the next bucket. Education. So what does the vision look like for education? Where do you feel that value being transferred to somebody that wants to get into this business? What are the goals for the education arm of Howell Sons over the next decade?
Yeah, that's great. We have an education program called the Land Home League, and partnered up with Chris Gabry and then another gentleman, Brent Bowers. I'm an operator by trade, and really that's what I love to do. And I've been doing these land home packages for a while. And a couple of years ago, Brent, who has an education program on land flipping, he approached me and said, "Hey, look, you're doing a great job being an operator, and I'm sure you're already teaching people how to do this. Why don't you formally start an education program?" And so after bugging me for 6 months, he finally said, "Hey, if you're not going to do it, why don't we partner up? I'll show you how to do it." And so we ended up partnering up. And it's a great program where you get access to his Land Shark program to learn how to find land and acquire land, which is an important part of this. And then through Land Home League, we teach you how to operate and project manage and scale it. And so we started December of 2024. Have probably about 75 students or so across the country, and we teach them how to do it. We've seen some great success with these. Of course, there's people that never do anything with it, but then there's the people that take action and make it happen. And I could tell stories about them for days. But the goal is to really continue to grow that. And again, as I try to reach 100,000 homes in 10 years, I can't do it alone. And so imagine if I can educate and teach people how to do it, then we can reach that number a lot faster.
Yeah. And is the 100,000 homes, is that a financial legacy component of what the portfolio would become for Howell Sons? Is that more a target impact number?
It's an impact number, yeah.
Okay.
So it's more like, hey, man, imagine 100,000 families were impacted by what we did in this world, right? I mean, it's pretty cool, right? And figure, on average, a family's 4 people is 400,000 people, and I think the greater impact as you think about it is like, all right, now you have 400,000 people that maybe never thought they could afford a house, can now afford a house, and if they're living in good, comfortable, quality housing, what's the impact that they can make on the world, right? So it goes beyond just, hey, we're going to give 400,000 people a good roof over their head. Now that they got a good roof over their head, they can achieve great things in this world.
Yeah, 10x the impact, because now they're all influencers within their own right because they have stability in their life.
You're right.
What's a success story from somebody who came through coaching? Do you have one that comes to mind of somebody who came in and implemented the knowledge and crushed it?
Yeah, I've got two, and I'll share these two with you, and there's many more. But first is Bryson Hudson. You can look him up on Instagram. He posts there quite a bit. I think he's 24-year-old when he started. No money to his name, nothing. From Villa Rica, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta. Great guy, great kid, very go-getter. I think he just posted on Facebook, before we had even started our program, and said, hey, he was looking to learn how to do land home package. I said, well, we could teach you how to do it. So I messaged him and we went back and forth. he didn't even have the money to pay for the program. So we said, we'll help you out. And he joined, and now he's completed, I think, 5 projects. I need to call him and see what's latest. And he's got another like 10 in the pipeline. And he hadn't even been in the program for a year. So he started $0. We partnered with him on his first 3 because he couldn't even afford to get a loan. And then now he's off doing them on his own, which is great. He's got his own lenders that he attracts on Instagram.
So
And
a total of 15 projects completed within 24 months, starting with
yeah,
$0.
I mean, within 18 months, really.
Wow.
And, each one of those, he's making 40K profit. So pretty good deal.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is a cool
incredible.
story, but I think an even more powerful story is there's these 2 guys, Mike and Bill. They're business partners. They have been friends for 25 years. And for 25 years, they prayed for Bill lived in Chicago, Mike lived in South Carolina, and they prayed and said, "Hey, we would love to be able to find something that we could do together and be successful and be business partners so they could work together, but more importantly, so that Bill's wife could retire and quit
Wow.
working. She working 80 hours a week up in Chicago." And actually, just yesterday, uh, Bill moved down to South Carolina. He sold his house in Chicago, moved to South Carolina. Not only moved to South Carolina, moved in the same neighborhood as Mike. So they're across the
Wow.
street neighbors. They're in their 60s, I think. Hopefully they don't watch this because maybe they're in their 50s. But
Yeah. And
anyhow,
40s, if anybody asks, guys, we got you covered.
yeah, 40s. But anyhow, so they live across the street from each other, and they're on track to do 24 deals this year and have been in the
Wow.
program just like a year and a half. But really cool because this stress to Bill. Well, number one, they want to work together, but the stress for Bill was, man, his wife has been working and just killing it for however many years, 80 hours a week, and he felt a bit of like, man, I really would like to be the breadwinner here and enable her to quit her job and have a less stressful life. And now they've done that, which is awesome. I had breakfast with Mike yesterday, and
Wow.
I consider him a really close friend now. He's in our area, so some people might consider him a competitor because we're competing for the same buyers sometimes. But just a really great team there, and really cool to see.
How important is an abundant mentality as you start coaching and investing yourself to know that there's enough opportunity for everybody?
It's really hard, man. It's really important. And you had to remind yourself that daily. Actually, 30 minutes before this call, I had a guy text me, um, and he said, "Hey, I finally got my mobile home dealer's license, and what factory should I buy from?" And he is like in my town, quite honestly, has a lot more money than me. And I'm like, oh, dang it. And but that abundant mentality is okay. Hey, here's some contacts. And again, you go back to my goal of like, I want to do 100,000 houses. It's like, well, this guy has a path to do that, right? And he
Mhm.
can go out and kill it. So that's important. Or I do another example. Another guy, he was buying 4 houses a month from us. Because we got our dealer's license, we could sell to other investors, and it was great. And you think about projection. Hey, if he keeps buying 4 houses a month, that's a very profitable business. And he went and got his dealer's license, right? And so, but I'm happy for him, and we still talk. And at that point, I could have been mad at him, but anyhow, another example I could use
Yeah,
is
no, but it keeps you going. Or go ahead.
yeah. I mean, we've had some like students that have been part of our program that went on to like have their own coaching programs, right? Teaching the same thing. And again, like we could have kicked them out of all the groups and all the calls and everything else, but it's not that way. It's like, man, we want everybody to be successful.
So good.
And just because these 2 guys are teaching people, yeah, is it maybe some missed out students, that we might have otherwise been coaching for sure, but that everybody
The
has
overall
different,
impact will be greater. And
yeah, the overall
I mean,
impact, and we're happy,
you're going to
and
reap what you sow. So you're sowing
yeah,
seeds of trust and grace and impact. And it's almost inevitable or impossible for that to not come back. When you do it with a righteous spirit, there's going to be a blessing that follows that.
yep, 100%.
I love it. All right. So when you say 24 deals, 18 deals, 5 deals, is the way that you guys are structuring these deals an individual lot and an individual mobile home, as almost if it was going to be a custom home, right? An individual lot. So not all of these deals are communities, or they all are packaged, 3, 4, 5 homes at a piece. Like, how are you guys structuring these deals?
Mostly scattered lots.
Okay.
And so we might buy 3 lots in this county and 3 lots in another county, but some of them might be 2 lots next to each other. Some of them might be a single lot.
Okay.
That being said, we do some subdivides where we'll buy a larger parcel and then subdivide it. The largest we've done to date is 9 lots
Okay.
altogether. But we try to do scattered lots because they're quicker, as much as we can, and then build in some subdivides on top of it that we know a subdivide in our area typically taking 4 to 6 months if it's more than a handful of lots. So we know in 4 to 6 months that these lots are going to be available, but in the meantime, we're doing these one-off lots to keep the cash flowing.
Got it. And are these manufactured homes or mobiles?
Same. I mean, manufactured and mobile really are the same
Okay.
in terms of the
But like the
definition
pre-built
by home.
modular, like are these the modulars that are being built in a factory dropped on? Or are they true mobiles that could be, they got to get converted to real property once they're placed on the
Yeah,
lot?
true mobiles. Yeah, true
Okay.
mobiles. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right. Now let's transition to that third bucket. So the first bucket was funding. The second bucket was education. I think the third was co-investing, or looking for people to come alongside you and say, hey, we want to partner on deals. Is that something else you're looking for? Is there an appetite there? And what does that bucket look like as you guys grow? And what are you
Yeah, for
currently offering? If somebody hears this and say, "Man, I want to invest in a land package deal with Robert," what can they expect with that venture?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways we can structure it. Co-investing could be, hey, you want to be a private lender and make a guaranteed return on your money, then we could do it that way. Sometimes we do JV. We haven't done a lot of joint venture structures because we don't want to spread ourselves too thin, and obviously there's some risks that come associated with that. But lots of different ways that we can partner together, whether that be again being a lender or maybe actually being a JV partner on a project, or even eventually through a long-term relationship, maybe partnering up on an LLC and doing a bunch of them together.
Okay.
So lots of different ways, and sometimes people reach out and maybe it's not a fit for me. For example, I had a guy reach out to me yesterday, and he's a land flipper in Florida. Well, I'm not doing anything in Florida. I don't have any contractors. I don't know any permitting about Florida. I could learn it. I could have said, yeah, I'll fake it, and we'll figure it out together. But instead, I just refer them to one of our students that's doing stuff down in Florida, and said, hey, meet Daniel. Daniel's an expert in Florida, has already done a ton of projects, and he'd be a good partner for you.
I love it. That's awesome. What's some of the principles or lessons you've learned? I'll put it into two buckets. Best principles that you extracted during the time in event marketing, and principles you've learned since you've been a full-time real estate investor for 6 years. What would kind of be your cheat sheet on a, 3 to 5 bullet point principles that Robert Howell has learned and that have served you well?
Man, I need to come up with a list. When I did event marketing, I worked most of those 16 years for one guy, Dill Driscoll, and he had a
Okay.
lot of sayings.
Okay.
But and
All right. So
I
what are the
should
best things you learned from Deal?
I should have written them down. But one is and my kids hate this, but 15 minutes early is late, or on time is late. 15 minutes early is on time,
I
right?
love that.
And that
And
gets
and
back
I
to
can
the
I can give
urgency.
you a positive character endorsement that you were on this podcast episode before I was. So Robert
Let's
stands
go.
behind his punctuality.
Let's go. So that from event marketing, that probably the biggest, and then the urgency and the response time, communication. Those early days is what really built me. If you were to, I'm pretty busy right now, so I'm not as fast on my emails. But if you were to email me, typically I'm responding. If you asked me like 3 years ago, I'd be responding like within 3 minutes. But now I'm responding within the same day. But
I
yeah,
love it.
so that speed wins
Okay.
on real estate, and principle on real estate is, people ask me like, man, have you, I own 23 mobile home parks, or 24. Do Last year we did 50 land home deals. This year I'll do 100. It's like, man, how
What's
do
the
you
total
do it?
units on 23 mobile homes? Are those individual mobile homes, or
Yeah,
they're
it's
multiple
200
units?
and 205 lots.
Okay.
But People ask me, man, how do you do all that? And if you think about it, it hasn't really been that long, 2021, really. So 5 years, that's a lot of growth. And, I would tell you the principle learned in that is to really just show up. And if you
Mm,
show up consistently every single day, then success is going to happen, right?
mm,
And that's what I've done. I think back to like, meetups that we've been part of or like groups that you've been part of. And I used to host a local meetup here, and it's like, some people would show up, some people wouldn't. I showed up every single week.
amen.
And
Let's go.
eventually, like, success came, right? And you think about, all those guys that started with you and, where they're at versus, and it's not a comparison game by any means, but
No, it's
simply by showing up,
staying
I'm not
power
the
is so
smartest
true.
guy, and it's like, just be there, show up and be consistent about it and you'll have success.
Well, how important is character in showing up? Because I think character is the ultimate staying power. That is the endurance factor. One thing that's been on my mind recently is I don't know, you don't know anything about my story, but 8 years ago, 6 days ago, I was shot, robbed at gunpoint, two pending felonies, $120,000 in debt, got saved, completely changed my life, met my wife. Now we've done over $1 billion in loans, and every dream that I ever had in my life, I've already accomplished at an age that I never even thought was possible. So
Love
now it's
that.
like, okay, what do I do for the next 70 years or 60 years? It's just finish well, just continue to show up and be a good person and make impact and honor the Lord and do everything that I need to do. But from your perspective, from seeing those guys come in and come out, how much of the inconsistency is maybe a lack of vision, a lack of strategy? And then, you've been in business longer than I have. How much of guys falling off has been a character? Like, in other words, what's your ingredients in your recipe for being consistent? What does that look like to be able to just show up every single week and never miss?
Yeah. I think character, I mean, it all boils down to that, right? And
Mm,
I mean, there's lots of things that go into what your character is. And what, with character, it's like, what's your bigger reason, right? That
mm.
drives you. And, for me, I'm a Christian. And so for me, it's
Let's
like,
go.
hey, God's given me this talent. And I think about it a lot. It's like, man, I work a lot and I don't work crazy. I mean, I work 40, 50 hours a week. It's not too crazy, but it's busy 40, 50 hours a week.
Yep.
And it's like, man, I've got all this talent and that God's given me. It's like, what can I do with it? Right. And there's days when I think, man, instead of doing 100 deals
Mm.
and maybe I should just do 20 and I'll make a great living. But at the same time, you got this talent and it's like, how can you impact other people, right? That through that talent that God's given you. Every interaction that I have, whether it's this interaction or it's my interaction with my grader that I talked to just before this call and, how that interaction went, it's like you can make a huge impact, right?
Dude, I love that. I think there's two things. So one, I had a near death experience, which I honestly think was a gift. And I was even listening to Joe B. Martin last night, who I love. And he was talking to Steve Weatherford, who was, punter for the Giants and got radically
Hmm.
saved. And Joby was saying it was the kindness of the Lord that allowed you to be broken. It was the kindness of the Lord that allowed you to be sleeping in a garage for $79 a night. Like, I think about the kindness of allowing some of that adversity to happen, because on the other side of that, I think of it as a moral responsibility. And I share that with you. I wake up and I say, I feel responsible to maximize everything I've been given because it's been given
Yep.
to me. Like,
Yep.
I didn't do anything to get capacity. The Lord just gave me capacity. And I've started to
Hmm.
realize recently that capacity is a gift from the Lord, because not everybody has capacity. I mean, some people may only be able to work hard for 4 to 5 hours. And when I first got into a leadership role in sales, I thought everybody's able to work 12 hours a day, give it all they got, grow every single day. And then I realized not everybody actually has the DNA and framework to work that long, and they can still have a great career with the capacity they've been given or the
Yep.
priorities and desires and visions they've been given. Maybe they love recreation. Like my wife, I'm sure sometimes, I wouldn't say that she wishes this, but she probably does, wishes she married somebody that just loves to hunt and fish and hang out. And, I'm home every day at 2:30. She married somebody, she calls me an Energizer bunny because she married somebody that's just on from the second my eyes open to the second they close. And there's a pro and con to all of that. So
Yep.
I don't even know if there's a question there. It's just some more feedback about it. I think there's a when you do business through a kingdom driven lens, I think it comes with an additional responsibility where growth is required. I don't know how you're a
Hmm.
kingdom driven entrepreneur and you're not growing and scaling and improving without wasting talent. Like you either grow or you
Yep.
die.
Yep. 100%. There's no question about it. It's like you got this responsibility, right? And not everybody's equipped for it, which is fine. But if you are equipped for it, then what are you going to do with it?
I love it. All right, so total number of deals in 5 years. So you got the 200 units between the 23 parks, 23 or 200 plus doors. And then you said you're going to do another 100 land home package deals this year. So to add up the total number of deals you've touched from the time you left event marketing to now, how many mobile home deals have you been involved with, coached, led, gave feedback on from the time you went full time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, probably I'd have to count them up, but 300, 400 personally involved in, whether that be a mobile home park, a flip, a wholesale, or land home package.
So it'd be
If I
accurate to
had to
say
guess.
300 mobile home deals in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a fair personally involved in. And then, in terms of like how many that,
You've
we've
looked
touched
at.
through
Yeah,
students or whatever, right? Like, I mean, hundreds, right? I don't know what that number is, but it's a lot.
I love it. All right, so I'll ask two final questions as we come up on the 40-minute mark. Number one, what's one thing you wish you knew when you started your career? If Robert Howell today could go back and give a piece of advice to young Robert before you had your boys, before you had your family, before you went 16 years working for D's and then another 6 years in real estate investing, what's one thing that you would tell yourself if you were talking to young Robert?
Start early. I
Mm,
think that's the big thing. And I started early, entrepreneurial. I had a snack business, selling snacks out of my garage when I was in elementary school, right? But from a real estate perspective, I learned a lot in my event marketing career, and I'm grateful for it. But I wish I would have started in real estate a lot earlier. I
mm.
think I didn't start until I was 40, and I'm 45 now. But if I would have started in my 20s, as some of these people that I'm teaching and working with, one of my business partners, he's 28, and multimillionaire already. So, I would say start early. Don't be afraid.
So
In your
good.
early 20s or even in your teens, you've got nothing to lose. And if you think you have something to lose, it's really not. But so get going early. And my boys, I told you they have their thing called the
Early
Early
Bird
Birds,
Podcast.
which
Check it out if you're a listener and you want to listen to the Early
yeah,
Bird
Early
Podcast. Check
Birds,
it out.
and that's what they talk about. They started when they're 8 years old, rolling trash cans out for people.
I love it. All right. So when it's all said and done, you close your last mobile home deal. You're at 2,000 units. We've done 100,000 deals over the decade. I think you probably got more like 4 decades left, which even thinking about that, one time I hung up
Let's
at my
go.
office, it was stoicism. It shows 80 years and you literally cross off one day at a time. It has a dot for every single day on 80 years. And it shows you like, that's how many days you actually have in your life. It was pretty
Yeah, it's
powerful.
crazy. It's crazy you say that. And sorry to interrupt, but I was
No, you're
listening to
good.
Steve Weatherford yesterday or day before, and he was like, I'm 43 years old. I have 33 summers left. Statistically, if you look at when a
Wow.
male is going to die, it's like, man, you put it that way. I told my wife on a walk last night, and I was like, man, I might only have like 31 summers left. We got to get going.
No, I mean, I think urgency is probably one of the greatest principles that's missed, but has the biggest impact out of anything is urgency. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know if there's anything else that'll make more impact. Tony Robbins says it. It says the true measure of how hungry somebody is how urgent they are.
yeah,
You can't say you're hungry and want to procrastinate. Those two
yeah,
things don't coexist. All
yeah.
right. So anyway, 2,000 units, 100,000 deals. Howell Sons, you got grandkids now flipping mobile homes. When it's all said and done, what does Robert Howell want to be known for?
Man, I'd love to just be known that's like Robert cared for people.
Mm,
It's more than just affordable housing. It's like, hey, he
mm,
he cared for people. He took care of people. Um, Made a lot of money along the way, which is great. But did you care for people? And
so good.
if you can say that, I think that'd be cool.
I love it. What's the best way for somebody to get connected with Robert Howell today?
So you can go to my website, howellandsons.com. That's probably the best way. Shoot me a contact on it, and my phone number is on the website.
I love
And
it.
reach out. I'd love to have a conversation, 15 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. If you want to talk about life or talk about affordable housing, always open to those discussions.
I love it. All right. Well, Robert, thank you so much for the time today. A huge congratulations on what you've built, zero to over 300 deals touched in your first 5 years of professional real estate investing. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the High Level People podcast today. Super excited for this episode to come out, and just want to thank you again for your time.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the High Level People podcast. If you learned anything from today's content, or if it made a positive impact on your life in any way, please feel free to subscribe on your favorite platform. More importantly, if you think there's somebody in your life who would benefit from today's episode, please shoot them a link, encourage them to do the same, encourage them to subscribe, because every week we're committed to adding value. I look forward to seeing you soon. Hope you guys have a blessed day, blessed week, and let's go.